and welcome back. My name is Tati. Today's class is themed around Asteya or non-stealing and is part of the 10-part Yamas and Niyamas series. So as a reminder, the Yamas and Niyamas are the first two of the 8 limbs of yoga. There's much more to yoga than just the physical poses. And in each of these 10 classes, we'll be going through these ethical restraints and observations. So the classes will be slower paced, more yin and restorative style classes, and I'll be sharing with you all of the ways in which you can think about bringing these principles off the mat and into your everyday life. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do that. It really helps support my channel. If you'd like to try any of the other classes as part of this series, you'll see that they're linked in the description box below. And for today's class, I'd really recommend you have a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, you might like to use a pillow from your bed. If it's not a very tall pillow, perhaps get 2 of those or a rolled up blanket. Don't worry if you don't have any of this, you can still do the class without any props, but it might make it a little bit more comfy. And with that, I'd say let's get started. On our back, feet are wider than hip width distance, or about mat width distance, with the knees falling in towards one another. Hands can rest on the belly or on the mat alongside you. And just arriving in your practice here in constructive rest, taking a moment what Asteya or non-stealing might mean for you. Maybe this is the very first time you've ever thought of it or heard of the concept. I'm sure most of us know what stealing means, but what could this mean in the context of yoga? And the first thing we'll be investigating, which I invite you to notice this in your everyday life in the coming weeks, is how are you stealing from others in terms of time, attention, one-upmanship, power, confidence, not celebrating others' success. So these are all considered stealing in yoga. And the invitation here is to practice being what Deborah Adele describes in her book, The Yamas and Niyamas, as a forklift. So someone who uplifts others with their presence. So why not go out off the mat later and practice uplifting others just by the fact that you're in their presence. And from constructive rest, stretching out the left leg along the mat, hugging the right knee in towards the body. And then rotating the right leg over and across into a supine twist. You are very welcome to place the left hand onto the right knee, open the right arm up into a T shape, gazing up towards the sky or over the right fingertips. And from here, gently unwinding the twist, placing the left foot on the mat, right knee rests on top of the left. And you might like to stay here in eye of the needle, or you are welcome to lift the left foot up off the mat, threading the arms in between the legs, holding onto the outside or inside of the left knee. To make the stretch more active, you can press the right elbow into the right knee, and the left foot can be active or letting it gently guide towards the earth. Remembering to take deep breaths. The lower back is making contact with the earth. The neck is relaxed, back of the head against the mat. And then releasing, straightening both legs out along the mat and hugging the left knee in towards the chest. And with the next inhalation, drawing the left knee over and across to the right side. Right hand can rest on the left knee, opening up the chest towards the sky. Left arm opens up into a T shape, rotating over into supine twist on the other side. Again, option to gaze up towards the ceiling, over your left fingertips, or closing down the eyes. And the second invitation to think about Asteya or non-stealing off the mat is to notice where you might be stealing from the earth or where you might be stealing from your own future. So take a moment to notice where you're taking something without returning something of at least equal value. So practicing giving back. And all of these journal prompts or practice prompts that we're discussing in class today will also be linked in the description box. So after class, you might like to have a look. Inhale, gently unwinding the twist, placing the right foot with the knee bent onto the mat. Left ankle rests on top of right knee. Option to stay here in eye of the needle or lift the right foot up off the mat, threading the arms between the knees and then holding onto the outside or the inside of the right knee, pressing the left knee away with the left shoulder, relaxing the facial features, relaxing the jaw. Sending the breath into the belly and the hips. And then gently releasing, lying back briefly in constructive rest. So feet are mat width distance apart, knees pulling in. Taking a deep inhalation all the way into the belly. And exhale, sigh it out. From here, slowly rolling over one side, finding onto all fours. You can take the transition slow. This is a yin class, so gift yourself some time. Don't steal your time away from you. And from your all fours position, stepping the right foot forward, so to the outside of the right hand, into dragon pose. If you have got blocks, you might like to place the hands on blocks to lift yourself a bit higher. And then sinking, lowering both hips towards the earth. You'll probably feel quite a nice stretch in the left hip. Left toes can be tucked or untucked, so play around with what feels comfortable. Sometimes it can also be nice to gently rock backwards and forwards just at the beginning of the practice of dragon pose and then finding into stillness. And from here, slowly walking the right foot towards the center line and then bringing the right foot to the inside of the left wrist, bending at the knee, finding into swan, which is the yin name for pigeon pose. You might know it by that name. Left leg is stretched out towards the back, placing the hands on the mat with a tall spine. This is option 1. If there's any pain at all in the right knee, please come out of this pose. You can rest in constructive rest, so that's on the back with the knees falling in towards the midline. But if swanpose is accessible to you, option to stay with the hands on the mat. You can also come down to the forearms or form a pillow by holding onto opposite elbows, resting the forehead on the forearms, or straightening the arms out in front of you, resting on the earth. This is a very deep stretch in the hips, especially if we've been sitting a lot, then we can feel a lot of tightness here. And just acknowledging the sensations, sending the breath to any parts that really feel like they need a bit of release. And then gently walking the hands back up towards the body, taking a pause here. And then stepping the right foot back into all fours, tabletop position. Taking a deep breath here with a straight spine. And then stepping the left foot forward to the outside of the left hand. Sinking the hips low into dragon. Your options here are to place the hands on the mat, maybe rocking gently backwards and forwards. Finding stillness, and if you'd like to intensify the stretch, you can come onto the forearms. If you'd like to lessen the stretch, again, option to place the hands on blocks. A third way to think about asteya or truthfulness is acknowledging that we are visitors to this earth. So living life as a visitor to this world rather than an owner can be a way of practicing non-stealing. And we really can enjoy the world a whole lot more if we can appreciate that we have only a brief time here, that nothing is permanent, and there's not really any point to clinging to anything because everything changes anyway, and it doesn't truly belong to us, particularly with physical possessions. From your dragon pose, sliding the left foot in and then placing the left ankle to the inside of the right wrist, bending at the left knee, straightening the right leg out along the mat, finding into swan pose on the other side. So you can bring the left foot closer in towards the body or sliding it further up so that it's parallel to the top end of the mat. This will intensify the stretch. I personally don't like this version. It hurts my knees, so I keep my foot closer to my body. So please listen to your body. Practice the first of the Yamas Ahimsa, which is non-harm or non-violence. So be gentle with your body. And then option again to come down onto the forearms or grasping opposite elbows, straightening out the arms, and release into the pose. With every exhalation, is there anything else that you can let go of? Surrender into the pose. And And then slowly walking the hands back into the body, pausing briefly with a straight spine before sliding the left leg back towards the right. So you're on your belly now, sliding the forearms to be parallel to each other, elbows under shoulders. So we're briefly in Sphinx, and then with the next inhalation, sliding the right knee up so it's in a straight line with your right hip, bending at the knee so the shin is parallel to the long end of the mat. Frog meets Sphinx pose. So peeling the chest open, chin is slightly tucked. So you can also come down onto your belly if it feels too strong with the forearms. And then straightening out the right leg, left knee slides up, bending 90 degrees at the knee. Frog meets Sphinx on the other side. So check to see that your shin of your left leg is parallel to your right leg. So they're both pointing back. Your knees pointing away from your body. And for the full expression of this pose, we're going to come into frog pose. If you know that your hips are a bit tight and this is too uncomfortable, you can come back into Sphinx, so just straightening the legs out. But if you are coming into frog, you're going to leave the left leg exactly where it is and then sliding the right knee up in line with the right hip. It can be possible to bring the shins parallel to the long end of the mat, but maybe it actually feels more comfortable to your knees and hips to bring the feet closer towards one another so that the toes are touching. So really just play around here. And again, if there's any pain in the knee, ease off a bit. A little bit of discomfort can be good to practice moving deeper into the pose, but we never want to have any pain. Again, resting on the palms of the hands or on the forearms, maybe even coming all the way down onto the belly. Taking what you need here. We're only here for another 2 breaths. Inhale very gently and very slowly, pressing yourself up. Coming out of frog pose, sitting on your bum, and then straightening the legs out to either side, opening as wide as is comfortable to you. If you are using your pillows or bolsters, you might like to use them now for dragonfly pose. So sliding the bolster so that the short end of your bolster or pillow is by your pelvis pointing away from you, and then rounding the spine and folding forward over the pillow or bolster. And think of keeping the toes active, so up towards the ceiling. If this does feel too strong, you can always walk the legs closer together. That will lessen the sensations. Otherwise, taking nice deep breaths. So as a reminder, we've looked at Asteya, non-stealing, the third of the Yamas in class today. And from here, releasing the bolster. Bringing the legs back in towards the center line, bottoms of the feet to touch, knees fall away from the body. Coming into butterfly pose. You can round the spine and fold forward, walking the feet as close or far away from the body, seeing how that changes the stretch and where you feel the sensation in your body. And a fourth way of practicing Asteya off the mat is to have a think about your dreams and goals and create a list of things that you can try or that you can study so that you can increase your knowledge and your competency in order to bring you closer to your goals and your dreams. So what you're doing is you're stopping stealing from your future self and you're putting in the work today in order for you to work towards and perhaps even realize these dreams and goals. One has to start small, one has to start somewhere. So a good way is to start now and stop stealing from your future self. Releasing your butterfly pose. You can either come into a cross-legged position or you can slightly slide the left shin to be parallel to the top end of the mat, placing the right ankle on top of the left knee, right knee on top of left ankle. So you're stacking the legs in a square-shaped position. If there is quite a big gap between your right knee and your ankle, you can slide a rolled up blanket or a block in between. Again, if you have any kind of pain in your knee or knee injury, I really wouldn't recommend doing this one. Cross-legged position will also give you the sensation of the stretch in the hips, so that's a really good option. Or you can find constructive rest. Nice tall spine, shoulder blades draw up and back to open up the chest. Chin is slightly tucked, and you can lower the gaze or close the eyes. Releasing the pose, switching sides so the right shin is parallel to the top of the mat. Left knee stacks on top of right ankle, left ankle on top of right knee. Square pose. I know some also call this firelog pose. That's actually a cuter name. I don't know about you. Let me know in the comments if you prefer square pose or firelog pose. So thinking about these dreams and goals and ways in which you can study or things you can try or people you can speak to increase your knowledge and competency so that you can bring yourself closer to your goal. There's loads of really good YouTubers that are inspiration for getting stuff done. So if you need any recommendations, feel free to message me on Instagram at yinyoga and I can give you some great resources of people to follow. Releasing from here, and everyone find cross-legged position, nice tall spine, forming a seal with the hands, so thumb gently rests on the index finger, hands on knees. Reflecting on what you learned today about Asteya, non-stealing, all of the deep stretches we did in the hips, and then finding all the way down onto your back into Shavasana, our final resting pose. Legs can be straight away from the body, palms facing up, or taking any other shape that feels good for you to do the final 2 minutes of our practice. So really letting go of any residual tension in the body, relaxing the jaw muscles and the eyes, tuning in with the sounds and the sensation of the body breathing. And I'll call us back when it's time. Starting to deepen the breath. Notice any sounds in the room around you. Keeping the eyes closed and gently invite movement into the body, bringing movement into the fingers and the toes, stretching the arms up and overhead, finding length from the tips of the fingers all the way into the toes, hugging the knees into the chest, gently rocking from side to side, massaging out the lower spine, and then rolling over onto one side into the fetal position. Taking a moment here to notice how your body and mind, your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state, how they feel now at the end of practice. And perhaps you are tempted to do some journaling using the prompts in the description box, practicing Asteya or non-stealing after class. And then gently pressing your way all the way up into a seated position. Eyes are closed. Bringing the palms together at the heart space. Taking a deep breath in. And exhale out. Bowing the gaze. Namaste. Thank you so very much for joining me today for this Asteya sequence with lots of deep hip stretches. I really hope that it gave you some food for thought and ways that you can practice non-stealing off the mat. Maybe some inspiration to be a forklift for others by uplifting them with your presence, shining from the inside out. And maybe this gives you a bit of courage to act on the things that you always wanted to do to stop from stealing from your future self. Once again, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, it really means a lot to me and supports the channel. And I have linked all the other classes, so if you'd like to learn more about the other Yamas and Niyamas, you'll find them also linked in the description box. All my love.